Welcome everyone to this episode of Discourse, where today we're going to be reviewing Unhealthy Behavior, Abuse, and Addiction Come From a Pain in the Gut by Joseph C. Way. Most of us have felt a pain in the gut that had no connection to any digestive disorder. We consciously and subconsciously spent a large amount of time and effort responding to that pain, either trying to get rid of it or to prevent its return. Such pain is a natural part of the human condition, but without our conscientious care and caution, it destroys us. When abundant and persistent, it prevents full development of the human potential and robs us of our health and happiness. The degree of that pain's presence strongly indicates who we are and how we act.
Have you ever felt that? Like an emptiness in there, or like a pain in your gut that wasn't due to eating the wrong thing, or
100%. I think any normal human being living life has felt some sort of, like the author calls it, a pain in the gut. I definitely have. That's why I've, been to therapy and things like that. So there's plenty of baggage and garbage, as the author calls it, for everyone.
Yeah, he talks about that, and I believe there's a chapter that talks through it and just ways of coping with it. But like that, we all carry garbage within ourselves, like emotions, feelings, guilt, just
Right.
everything that builds up, kind of like in a computer, or just technology. You got
Too much data building up, so you
much-
gotta or erase the cache or whatever it's called.
There you go.
Yeah.
The cache, you got to dump it in order for the computer to process correctly, right? So us as humans, we have that as well. And a lot of times we hold it in and it starts eating up at us or hurting our stomach. As you said, a pain in the gut. And it depends on different situations. Like, I felt an emptiness myself when I felt that, like I was at a party but I didn't belong, or I was in a group setting but I felt out of place. So I was just empty and kind of it hurt inside because I didn't feel like important enough to be involved or be a part of whatever, the event. You can't hold that in. You gotta vent to people. You gotta talk. If you're religious, you go to confession, or even
just
if
church or church groups, and
yeah.
there are so many different groups out there now for everything. I mean, there's so many resources out there.
Even the author, he said he was a Air Force chaplain, right?
Mm-hmm.
For several years. So if you're in the military, there's always a chaplain around. You could talk to them. Even if you're not religious, talk to a family member, talk to a stranger. You're at a movie theater, you're at a Starbucks, or whatever. Do some small talk and just let things out, and they'll listen. You'll never see them again, most likely, and you feel better.
So yeah, the author continuously is giving us throughout the book, because like you said, he was a chaplain, right, for the Air Force for, I think he said, over 20 years. So
yeah.
He was, most of his career he spent helping people with different substance abuse and things like that. So a lot of this book, he references a lot of his experience with his clients and things like that, and how he helped them, and the knowledge he gained from doing that type of work. So it's very therapeutic, I felt like.
Yeah.
And he covers so many things, and I felt like a lot of it made, especially coming from my own background of going to therapy and things like that, I was like, this is exactly the type of stuff that I would work through in therapy. So he was essentially doing just that, and helping people with whatever issues they had. And he even says it's not just for drug and alcohol abuse, it's for many other things that this book can help with.
And through his experience, because he was also learning on the job and understanding, it wasn't just telling him, stop or don't buy any more drugs. It was more than that.
Which honestly, in a little part of me, I was like, whoa, that's a little scary, because you are kind of dealing with people's lives, and a lot of times people can be suicidal, or those really serious things, or substance abuse, people overdose and things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, but thankfully the author was a good person and actually cared and actually wanted to do a great job. So I think he took all the right steps. He read all the right books and materials, and he did what he needed to do, and also learning on the job to help all these people who wanted it or may not have wanted it at first, but then wanted it, after working with him.
He was kind of unconventional. He tried different things. What worked for one person didn't work for another. It was also based on their life experiences, the way they were raised. Yeah, in the book, he talks about appropriate love and inappropriate love and just the impacts that it has on people. But he mentions that there was always one crucial question that would determine what the situation was and how he was going to tackle it with his client.
Which, before I read the question, I was like, I was sincerely like, oh my God, what question is it, right? Yeah. Like, it has to be like this momentous type of feeling, right? And what's the question?
Yeah, it was very simple.
Simple, but like actually really held so much in it. That was like a super in-depth question. Mm-hmm. It's like when you meet a stranger for the first time and like you just come at them with like a really in-depth question, like
something
whoa.
Deep.
Yeah, like super deep. Yeah. So I thought, I don't know what kind of question I guess I thought it would be, but anyways, go ahead.
Here it is. It is one of those questions we initially answered at the subconscious level, but it must be consciously answered if we want recovery and wholeness. That critical question is, what do I think of me? The significance of this simple sounding question is enormous because its answer largely determines how we daily live.
It's so true, because I feel like people who have extremely low self-esteem or self-doubt or what have you, anything that's negative that they put upon them really does dampen them in their lives, like in all aspects. Regardless of whatever the thought may be, thoughts are so powerful. If you think you're a horrible person or not good enough, not cool enough, not whatever enough, I mean, it becomes reality in your mind.
Yeah.
And it's super difficult to kind of reconstruct your way of thinking to not think that way. It takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah. And most of the time it causes a pain in the gut.
Yeah.
Just as the author said.
Exactly.
And asking certain questions, especially this one, kind of gives you the story and like what happened, how can I help you? But yeah, that's a simple question, but it's pretty big because a lot of people just think, I'm addicted to alcohol, I'm addicted to this, I need it because I'm addicted. They don't think about, I need it because I have low self-esteem or my self-worth is, not there.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional. The author even talks about he was in a group session where he asked people that were either addicts themselves or knew someone that was an addict, like what was the number one reason they think the reason was.
Right.
The number one reason
that they have the pain in the gut.
Yeah, and most of them, if not all, said it was due to something dealing with emotion, so it's emotional damage.
Right. And I feel like thoughts and emotions are super like tied and linked. So when you have like these horrible feelings about yourself, thoughts about yourself, the feelings are like solidifying them. Like you're making your own truth in your mind, and it's like I said, solidifying that thought with the emotion behind it. It makes it more impactful and more hurtful on yourself. And you don't feel healthy, and you don't feel good, and you don't feel whole inside yourself.
So where do you go to help you? Drugs, alcohol, something.
Yeah, like self-medicating is like a huge thing for people dealing with depression and low self-esteem, trauma, all kinds of stuff. I'm sure, like, being in the Air Force, I'm sure he talked with people who had PTSD and things like that. And that's, like, a whole other type of deal. But I'm sure, it's a similar way of going about therapy and stuff like that.
And he even talks about people that felt that they were controlled their whole lives. Maybe really strict parents who always told them when to use the restroom, when to eat, when to sleep, when to not go out.
They're just so extremely not in control. Like the lack of control in their lives is kind of what drives them to be like, well, I need to control something.
It's a crazy title, but it makes sense. In this.
I know. When I first read it, I was like, what's this book going to be about? Like, I was like, wait, what?
Bad food?
No, I was like, are they taking like the wrong medications and it's like disturbing the inner linings of the, the guts? And I really was starting to think like science-based, but we read another book from this author before. So then it kind of clicked and I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, I thought it was health-based, like how to cook better food.
I know. How to eat healthier.
unprocessed.
How to get your fiber and all that stuff. Oh my
Yeah.
god, can you imagine? That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
author too, the author himself is really like, I felt like he's a really interesting person. I felt like his life is like a continuous line of like doing helping with the civil rights movement, being in a part of the military, right? That's you're fighting for people's freedoms and rights and in all of those instances, right? Doing this type of work when he was in the military, helping people with their lives, you know.
It's like he's always giving back.
Constantly.
Learning and giving back.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and be sure to check out Unhealthy Behavior, Abuse, and Addiction Come From a Pain in the Gut by Joseph C. Way.